Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. In today's video, I am going to be discussing yesterday's game between the Phoenix Suns and the Boston Celtics. This was a very slow-paced and at times gritty and ugly game to watch. The Suns were able to come away with a win in a 100-91 ball game, but I still think I came away from this game feeling slightly worse about them as a team than I did going into it. There just weren't any individual players that impressed me all that much outside of the wing duo of Mikal Bridges and Cameron Johnson. Luckily for the Suns, those two both had really nice games, and I was quite impressed by what I saw from them. Bridges had a 19-point game with 9 rebounds where he shot very well from the field, going 8 for 13. He has been shooting the three-pointer at a very high level so far this season, and it is cool to see him continue to become more comfortable driving the ball and taking it to the rack. He especially has looking to take advantage of mismatches. So in this game, when he had someone like Peyton Pritchard or Kemba Walker or Carson Edwards switched onto them, he really looked to attack the basket. And I think that that is definitely a good thing for him to continue to evolve as his game grows. Cam Johnson also was quite good, finishing with 17 points. He made 4 of his 8 threes and had a very big bucket for the Suns down the stretch in which he took the ball really strong to the rim, attacked Daniel Tice, took the contact, and finished for an and one. And that was really a turning point in the game that kind of sealed it for the Suns. But Johnson has just been a really steady role player for this team so far, spacing the floor and knocking down shots while playing pretty solid defense. That I didn't see anything in this game that changed my opinion of that, but it was good to see him continue his steady production. I guess the other guy who you could make a case had a good game would be Devin Booker. He had a double-double, which I believe the announcer said was his first of the year, finishing with 18 points and 11 assists. The assists are what was really encouraging to me as he made a lot of really high-quality passes, both in the pick and roll where he found DeAndre Ayton running to the rim a few times, as well as on times where he was able to get downhill and find an open shooter on the perimeter. I was impressed by some of the passing reads he made, as a lot of these assists were not just simple swing passes or easy bounce passes to someone who was wide open under the basket. A lot of these were genuinely pretty high-level reads, and I think that Booker could continue this growth as a playmaker, and that will help him in his continued growth into being a genuine top 15 or 20 player in the NBA. He's struggled so far this season, especially with the playmaking aspect, and a large reason for that can be attributed to the arrival of Chris Paul in Phoenix. But in this game, he looked a lot better than he has at other times this year, so that's definitely a positive takeaway. A lot of the time, though, he really was struggling defensively, and Jayson Tatum was able to take advantage of a couple occasions where he was able to get Booker switched onto him, and Devin also had a few ill-advised shots in the half-court offense. So it wasn't an entirely positive game for D-Book, but he definitely played well. I don't think the same can be said for DeAndre Ayton. Now, Ayton's stat line looks shockingly good. He had 16 points and 11 rebounds on 7 for 11 shooting in this game. And when I saw that stat line, I was kind of blown away because watching the game, I thought he played quite poorly. He really got pushed around inside quite often by Tristan Thompson, who out-rebounded him 12-11 despite the fact that Thompson played 10 less minutes. When those two guys were in there together, Tristan was really able to be physical with Ayton, and Ayton didn't quite have the same power fighting back. I think that Ayton also kind of lacks that killer instinct that he needs. It did not feel like he had 16 points. There were definitely other opportunities for him to score where he just wasn't aggressive enough to take the shot. I've been pretty hard on DeAndre Ayton so far this season, and that's because I expected him to have a breakout year. I still think that that could happen, and the fact that he's able to put up this kind of stat line despite not having a significantly positive impact on the game is definitely impressive. But I still think that there's more to unlock here, and the Suns certainly need him to become more consistent if they want to reach their ceiling as a team. The same can be said for Chris Paul. Like, he has just been so on and off so far this year. At times, he looks like the guy that led OKC to the playoffs last year when everyone thought they were going to suck. He's had like 30-plus point games and double-digit assist games and games where he doesn't even miss a shot. But then he has games like this where he has 2 assists and goes 0 for 5 from three-point land. He did a nice job of attacking the rim, and that led him to finishing with 15 points, but he just has to hit his shots more frequently, and a game where Chris Paul only has 2 assists is kind of shocking. Now, he was giving Booker a lot more of the playmaking load. That is true, and for that reason, he didn't have the ball in his hands as much, but it's still pretty shocking. Frank Kaminsky also made a bit of a spot start for the Suns. I think this was the second consecutive game he started with Jay Crowder being out. Monty Williams wanted to have Cam Johnson coming off the bench to give them some more wing depth there. And I think that Frank actually played pretty well. I am a bit biased considering I am a Wisconsin Badgers fan, and Frank is probably the best player I personally have ever seen wear the Badger uniform. But 9 points and 9 rebounds on 4 for 6 shooting while helping your team out by cutting to the basket and knocking down catch and shoot threes is nothing to scoff at. So nice job, Frank. Keep up the good work. Go Badgers, go. On Wisconsin, baby. Moving on to the Celtics, there's a lot of ugly stuff that went on in this game for Boston. They shot a mere 35.5% on 2-pointers, on from the field. I think it was like 32% on 2-pointers, so even worse. And the biggest reason for that was Kemba Walker. Kemba had 14 points and made 4 of his 11 threes. So right there, that sounds pretty bad. 4 for 11 isn't great from beyond the arc, and only 14 points from a guy that's supposed to be your second option, that's not good. And then you take into consideration that he went 0 for 9 on 2-pointers. Like, that is just ridiculously bad. And Kemba just relies so much on difficult shots. The way that he scores is in the mid-range with floaters and step-back mid-range looks, or else from beyond the arc with step-backs and off-the-dribble pull-ups, and those are really hard shots to make. And in this game, Kemba could not get any of them to fall. And for that reason, he ended up shooting 4 for 20 from the field. That's really, really bad. And he had Chris Paul on him, who is one of the better defensive point guards in today's game. But I mean, geez, 4 for 20. And Jaylen Brown is out. Marcus Smart is out. So this team is really relying on him for offense, and he just could not come through. Now, this was a big fall off. He had a pretty decent game on Friday against the Clippers and was a big part of why they were able to win that game. But he has to be more consistent, and at this point, you can't just attribute it to the injury because he's been back for like 2 or 3 weeks now. So Kemba has certainly got to play better in order for this Celtics team to continue to win games. Jayson Tatum was fine. He was forced to do too much offensively, and that led to him shooting an inefficient 8 for 22 from the field. But he also had a very challenging matchup as Mikal Bridges was guarding him for large periods of the game. I actually don't remember Tatum scoring on Bridges more than 2 or 3 times. It felt like most of the times he was able to score was when he was able to get someone like Devin Booker or Chris Paul switched onto him so that he could use his height and length to his advantage and get up some really easy looks on his jumper. But yeah, this was not anything special from Tatum, but I'm not particularly worried. Defenses are really able to key on him with Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart being out, and I'm sure that he'll be able to score much more efficiently once a lot more of the ball handling and off the dribble duties are in the hands of those other 2 very good players. Outside of that, the one last guy that I want to touch on here is Peyton Pritchard, and the reason why I am not looking forward to talking about this guy is because I'm going to have to admit that I was wrong, and whoever likes to admit that they were wrong. But I had Pritchard in the mid-40s on my draft board, and I criticized the Celtics quite a bit for taking him at 26, and yeah, that take is not looking so good right now. My reasoning for not liking Pritchard as a prospect was because I didn't think that he had the necessary burst to be a true point guard. But on this Celtics team, he's not really asked to be a shot-creating virtuoso of any kind. He's more of just a spot-up shooter. And he's such a good shooter that he's able to play that role at a very high level. In this game, he had 12 points and 4 for 9 shooting from 3, and that's what the Celtics need him to do. He's going to be able to give them rotation minutes because of the reliable jump shot. And, I'm just going to have to admit that I was wrong on this one. Overall, this was a pretty sloppy game. Both teams play very slow, and that led to the score being a very low one. But there was some fun stuff that happened in this game, and I did enjoy watching it. Let me know what you thought in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. That's going to be it for me, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you all again very soon.